Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the preview for the 2024 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola, one of my favourite tracks on the calendar. It's a tight, twisty, traditional track, that's alliteration, and even though it may not be the best for racing, it is still a race I thoroughly enjoy, so I'm very much looking forward to this one. There's just something about Imola, maybe it's something to do with my Ferrari fandom, I don't know. But anyway, last time out F1 was in Miami for the, Miami Grand Prix, where Lando Norris took his first ever F1 win. But now it is on to Italy for round 7 of the season, the first of 2 races in the country. A lap of the Autodromo Enzo Adino Ferrari, or Imola for short, is 4.909 kilometers long. That's 3.050 miles if you prefer, and is made up of 19 corners with 63 laps scheduled for Sunday's Grand Prix. And the race lap record is held by Lewis Hamilton, who posted a 1:15.484 in 2020. As already touched on, overtaking isn't the easiest due to the tight nature of the circuit, and mistakes can and will be punished due to the gravel traps, so drivers will need to have their wits about them and will likely be largely reliant on the one DRS zone in use this weekend, which runs from just after turn 19 all the way to the braking zone for turn 2, that first chicane. Aside from there, the best spot to try a move is maybe the hairpin at turn 7, but that's not easy, so yeah, again, expect most moves to happen on the run to turn 2. The lap itself is a good mix of medium and high speed, so downforce levels are described by the teams as average compared to the rest of the season. It is also worth noting there have been a few minor modifications to the track since F1's last visit, including the return of gravel on the outside of the Acqua Minerale corners turns 11 to 13 if you prefer. Last year's race, as I'm sure you remember, was cancelled at the last minute due to severe flooding in the region, so we have to go back to 2022 for the last time we saw action at the circuit. Max Verstappen taking the win, leading home teammate Sergio Perez for a Red Bull 1-2, obviously, with Lando Norris taking the final step on the podium. And this weekend, Max Verstappen could make it 3 Imola wins in a row on Sunday, and he could also make it 7 poles out of 7 in 2024. And what's really interesting about that, apart from me playing it fast and loose with the word interesting, is that more importantly, 3 is the number of dry tyre compounds to choose from at a race weekend, and if we include the intermediates and the wets, 7 is the total number of tyres in the Pirelli range. Oh yes, that is right, it's back. It's a double segue into tyre talk time. The compounds available for this one then are the softest in the Pirelli range, and so they are the hard C3, the medium C4, and the soft C5. The track surface at Imola is slightly abrasive, but Pirelli says it's not particularly hard in terms of the forces exerted on the tyres. It's also important to note that there is a lot of support action at Imola this year, including F3 and F2, so the surface should rubber in quite nicely over the course of the weekend. The softer choice of compounds versus 2022 means we could, in theory, see a more interesting mix of strategies. Usually in a race isn't affected by rain, and the weather can be very unpredictable at Imola, so rain could very well be a factor. But if it stays dry, teams will likely be targeting a one-stopper due to the fact the pit lane lost time is actually one of the highest of the season. That said, the softer options could also result in a lot of pace and tyre management instead, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see more stops rather than too much tyre management. I know it's part of Formula 1, but we want to see these cars going as quickly as they can, don't we? So hopefully more stops rather than tyre management. On that note, the winning strategy in 2022 was a 2-stopper, but that included a switch from inters to dries. Max Verstappen doing that on lap 19, where he put on a set of the mediums before pitting again on lap 51 for a set of the softs. The last dry race at Imola was in 2020 with Lewis Hamilton pitting twice, but the second stop was largely due to a late safety car. Otherwise, it would likely have been a one-stop race. As for the final couple of things worth a quick mention on strategy, the total pit lane lost time in 2022 was largely between 30 and 32 seconds, and the full safety car has made at least one appearance at every race at Imola since it returned to the calendar in 2020, so that could play a huge part in strategy on Sunday. And your schedule for this one is an afternoon one here in the UK and across Europe, and I'm sure in other places in the world as well. And that will be the case, Canada aside, all the way until October, with some small variations along the way. It is also not a sprint weekend, so it is back to the traditional format. So FP1 will get the weekend started on Friday at 12:30 p.m. BST, and FP2 takes place later that same afternoon at 4 p.m. The third and final practice session is on Saturday morning at 11:30 a.m. with qualifying underway from 3 p.m. And it is lights out for the race on Sunday at 2 p.m. and once again that is in UK time. Now, before I get on to my predictions for this one, let's have a look at some of the news and talking points ahead of the weekend's action at Imola. So first up, Ferrari will be using their first big upgrade package of the season this weekend, a highly anticipated package it's got to be said, and a package that has been described by Mark Hughes as a major aerodynamic reworking. The update includes the adoption of the overbite side pod inlet arrangement similar to the concept Red Bull runs, although a different design of course. There are also changes to the side pod bodywork and cooling, changes to the details on the surface of the floor as well, and the rear wing features a more cambered end plate and a reshaping of the housing for the DRS mechanism, and that's according again to Mark Hughes over at F1.com. Now, I did reach out to some people asking if I could include some of the technical drawings by Giorgio Piola in this video, but nobody got back to me, so I'm taking that as a no. So what I'll do instead is include a link to the F1.com and Motorsport.com articles that include the drawings and the details in full for those of you who might want to have a look at the changes in a bit more detail. Others could and probably will bring updates too. Helmut Marko, for example, saying in a recent interview that Red Bull will have some new parts at Imola. So as always, keep an eye on that F1 car presentation show and tell thing on Friday morning. See what we can see. Sticking with Ferrari though, the team has announced some organisational changes and some new arrivals, with Brian Bosey or Bozzy taking on the role of race engineer for Charles Leclerc, Xavi Marcos moving to focus on, quote, other important company programmes. On top of that, Loic Serra has been brought in from Mercedes to take on the role of head of chassis performance engineering, and Jerome D'Ambrosio also joins from Mercedes in the role of deputy team principal. Both will start work with the team on October 1st later this year. Alex Albon has committed his long-term future to Williams by signing a multi-year contract extension with the team. His previous deal was set to expire at the end of 2025, but this new one will see him race into the new era of regulations with Williams. In their press release, the team said that the extended relationship underscores their commitment to building a competitive team capable of challenging for podiums and championships in Formula One. Albon said in that same release that although it has been a difficult start to the season, since joining Williams they have made significant progress together and he has seen the huge changes happening behind the scenes to take the team back to the front of the grid. He added that it is a long-term project that he really believes in and wants to play a key role in. Team boss James Vowles added to that by saying Albon has exceptional talents, technical inputs and dedication to the cause, and the extension is a huge vote of confidence in Williams. I must admit I was surprised by the timing of this announcement given the potential seats that could become available at the end of next season, but I'm not totally surprised that he wants to stay. He is leading that team really well. He's clearly happy and settled, and the team is obviously pleased with the job he's doing for them on and off track. What they need to do now, though, is, I guess, repay that faith he's put in the team by giving him a car capable of competing further up the grid. A lot of work to get there, though. And Ollie Bearman will get his first FP1 outing with Haas at Imola. Bearman, who, as I'm sure you remember very well, made his debut at Jeddah earlier this year, filling in for Carlos Sainz, will replace Kevin Magnussen for the first of 6 practice runs with the team in 2024. Ahead of the weekend, Bearman said he is looking forward to rejoining the team and taking part in the session, adding the team is having a strong season and is hoping with the extra experience he's gained since his last outing with Haas, that he will be able to help the team continue their run of form. And super quickly, on the subject of stand-ins, if you get the Sky F1 coverage where you are, David Croft, or Crofty, will not be commentating at Imola as he takes his first of 3 race weekends off this year, his place being taken by Harry Benjamin. Right then, let's make some predictions, and as always, do not take these too seriously, just a little bit of fun, but if you do disagree with my picks, which you probably should, then you can let me know yours in the comment section down below. And last time out, not great, but not awful either. In my defence, I don't think many were expecting a Norris win, but I was right on Verstappen for both poles and the sprint win, and I get half a point for Norris and Verstappen making the top 3, but in the wrong position, so I'll take that. It certainly could have been much worse. This time around, it's likely that Red Bull, especially Verstappen, will come into this weekend as the favourites. I don't know why I feel the need to say that at every preview, but I've said it again, so there we go. But given McLaren's surprise pace in Miami and those big Ferrari updates, this feels like a good time to put some predictions faith in those teams. Absolutely, just because McLaren were quick in Miami, it doesn't mean they're going to be quick in Imola, and just because Ferrari has a big new upgrade package, it doesn't mean it's going to work at Imola. But my point is, I'm not going to go Red Bull across the board again this weekend if they are probably the team to beat. I'm not convinced that Aston Martin or Mercedes will be able to cause those top 3 teams too many problems on race day at least, but never totally rule them out because, as I've mentioned a few times, the nature of the track and the unpredictable weather can throw a few curveballs, but I do think they'd need some drama to be threatening the top step of the podium, or frankly any step of the podium on Sunday. With all of that waffle out of the way, I'm going back to putting faith in Ferrari again, and we'll probably be let down by Ferrari again. But I'm going to pick one of those red cars for a pole position on Saturday, and as I tend to go with Leclerc, I'll mix it up and say Sainz instead. But I am going to be boring and stick with Verstappen for the win, as Red Bull are usually much stronger on a Sunday. I mean, I say boring, but really it's realistic. But anyway, as for the podium, I'm going to hedge my bets a bit here and put 3 different teams up there with Sainz P2 and Norris in P3. As always, though, that could easily be any 2 from Perez, Leclerc, Piastri, Sainz or Norris, but I've gone with those 2 to join Verstappen on the podium. My best of the rest behind those teams, so fourth best finish on Sunday is Mercedes, with Verstappen grabbing the point for the fastest lap of the race. As for some bolder picks, which actually went surprisingly well last week, okay, it wasn't in qualifying for the Grand Prix, but Logan Sargeant did out-qualify Alex Albon in sprint quali, so that's something, I suppose. This week, though, I'm going with a point for Yuki, Tsunoda, and Alex Albon as well to celebrate his contract extension with Williams, so maybe we'll need some chaos to get both those into points, but you never know. I'll also go with both Alpines making Q2 and say that Kevin Magnussen won't pick up a single penalty point at Imola. Now that is bold. That is it for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix preview then, but don't forget you can let me know your thoughts and your predictions ahead of the weekend in the comments section down below. And let me know as well what you think of Alex Albon's decision to extend his deal with Williams. Now, I will be back soon with some more content, and I will be live shortly after the action on Sunday for some race reaction. In the meantime, though, if you did enjoy this one, then please do leave a like, as it really does help the channel in its never-ending battle with the YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any future videos or streams. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.